Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Same Old Arsenal Team Talk. I'm your host, Dan Potts, and I've got two fantastic guests with me tonight. Lee Judges is back in the house. Lee, how you doing, man?
Well, yeah, I'm all right. After my little meltdown yesterday, not too bad. That was a tough watch yesterday. That really was. I don't know how we won the game. I really don't. But I lost it last night. You know what I mean? I couldn't take no more of that rubbish. And I have to say, I don't know how. Someone said to me, I think it was you, Dan, said, like, do we want to get in the draw today? And I said, I don't care. I'm just happy to be in the draw. I don't care who we get. I can't believe that we're in the draw. And, I feel a lot better today, I have to say. That was tough last night. I've got to say that. The emotions that went through me, from anger to joy to regret, to feeling sorry for myself, unbelievable. But we got there in the end.
You, a meltdown? I don't know what you mean, Judges. It ain't like you at all, mate. Also joining this evening, all the way from America, it's Mike Feinberg from the Gunners Pod. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Dan. Lee, if you don't know how we won last night, the reason is because we're the Arsenal! That's why. But I'm feeling the opposite of you. I felt ecstatic last night because I was in the moment, which means, alcohol. And today I'm starting to remember all the things that we did wrong on the pitch. So it's like it's literally the Arsenal hangover for me today. But no one was gonna piss on my cornflakes last night after that game. When it ends that way, and you get to celebrate a win like that with your son in the moment, everything else gets wiped away. It was glorious, and I don't care that it officially made us the 80th best team in Europe for the moment. It was a last minute winner, and we don't get a lot of those anymore.
I must admit, it was
a great point.
Go on, Lee.
No, sorry, Dan. That's a great point. Because I'm sort of working on these things. You don't have a beer. Like, you can have a beer, and it's a different watch. You know what I mean? And it's something that I'm not experiencing the watch when I normally go to a game where you can shout and scream and let your emotions go. But that game was probably the game where you want to be at the stadium or having a beer with your mates, so you can just let it all go. You know what I mean?
All the negativity gets filled. Yeah, when you're watching it at home, in your case probably by yourself, you all the negativity creeps in. There's nothing to push it away. It's like, oh my God, why did we bring on Willian? Oh my God, what the hell is Ceballos doing? And that's all you can think about. Whereas if you're at the game, or if you're watching at the pub, or if you're in a group, there's this adrenaline that's going on that's just about get that goal, get that last. That just push it over the line, and then when it happens, it's like everyone forgets that was 87 minutes of torture, and then another 6 minutes of torture at the end about whether we're going to pull another last year with them. And
so right.
But I was on just cloud nine after that game until I eventually fell asleep before I planned to fall asleep. Let's put it that way.
I must admit, man, it did get to a stage of me because I had a few rum and cokes, and I thought, go on, Lee. No, mate, honestly, it was. I was just saying,
I don't know, but I couldn't sleep last night. It was just it was unbelievable. But sorry, I was just.
No, you're right, mate. And listen, it was a game I was nervous about because it really was make or break. And, I was on the Gunners Pod with Mike and Sophie just before the game. And I think all of us were confident, but it was all quietly confident just because we knew we had to win this game. And there was a chance, and I'll start with you, Lee. There was a time, probably around with half hour or so to go, that I just wanted to leave because we were out, in my opinion. We were finished. So talk to me about this game last night. We cannot move on from it without talking about it. So, Lee Judges, over to you.
Well, I said it last week, and we spoke about it. I knew that this was not going to be a straightforward thing. I knew that I actually predicted, I said it would be 2-2, and we'd go out on away goals, typical Arsenal, and away goals, which never happened. You know what I mean? It was just so, and I knew that I was in for a difficult night. I knew it, but I didn't realise that we was going to make it our own doing. You know what I mean? It was our own doing that put us there, and I have to say the performance was shocking. You know what I mean? Defensively, you know, I look at it like Gabriel all over the place. You know, Tierney didn't have one of his great games defensively. Bellerin, you know, had one of his normal games, and probably out of the best of them all was Luis. You know, and then you looked into the midfield. You know, Xhaka has gone back to being Xhaka. Ceballos, you know, well, we know what happened with Danny. He became the Fanny, didn't he? Like Fanny Danny, like, you know what I mean? At the end of it, he was absolutely unbelievable. What was he thinking? What was he thinking? But you know, the shining light again was Saka and Aubameyang. You know, I have to say. But what about you know, Odegaard? You know, people going, he played well. He was getting into positions. No one feeding him the ball. It was just an absolute horror show, really. And I've got to say, 87 minutes of frustration. The fact of the matter is, we conceded that goal. When we conceded that goal, that was it for me. I could not see us breaking them down twice. I lost it. I had to come off the stream. I had to just walk away. But particularly when up goes the ball and on comes Willian. That was me. I was done. Mikel Arteta was no longer for me. He was gone. I walked downstairs, went down into the studio and letting off a bit of frustration in there. And we know when Tierney scored, I didn't celebrate because it didn't matter to me. It was 2-2. We were still out. You know what I mean? I just couldn't see us winning this game. And then you know, you're thinking, right, typical, like right at the last minute. And you know, when that goal went in, do you know what? When it went in to make it, I said, they're going to call this offside. It's going to be like, you know, I just had these visions of VAR coming down with a big grin on its face going, yeah, you know, we're screwing you. You know what I mean? Like, we are forever, you know, and you can imagine it like everybody's celebrating and, but they give it. And then I don't know about you guys, but when they give it, my first thought was, we're going to concede again. You know what I mean? We ain't going to like.
Well, we've literally done. We did that at this stage last year. It's an easy way to you know. It was got to be worried about that because it's happened to us constantly.
Yeah, it was hell. It was. I just did not enjoy that game.
You need a hug. You need a hug. It sounds like such an awful day for you yesterday. I think we need a group hug here.
Listen, I'm going to say I had a fantastic day. We've done the advert for Paddy Power, which was fantastic. It was a fun, loving, great fun day, doing all of that. And then Arsenal nearly just wrecked it. They nearly come in and wrecked it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if I would have been able to recover from that. February, 2.5 months left of the season of watching. I don't know where I would have. I don't know where I would have gone from there. That was such a massive goal at the end of it. You know, I have to say. You know, I know I'm probably going over the top, but
thank God we don't have to deal with that. We have you still.
Yeah. And you know that Benfica are going to go out next round. Whatever happens, you knew they were going to go out next round if they'd have beaten us.
I wanted you to answer this about because there's no fans in it. Do they put your prawn sandwiches in the post now, or like do they arrive half an hour before the game, or have you been skipping this?
Listen, yeah, they should do. Like, you know what I mean? I don't have a drink now before a game. I don't have a drink after a game. I don't have a drink during the game. I don't eat.
Not even a half.
The game now. No, not even half.
I got a bone to pick with you. You didn't tell the full story on that podcast the other night about unless I have it wrong, you didn't tell the actual origination story of the half pint. And I was did it start that night?
Part of it was.
Or was
no, it was part of it. It was part of it. Like, you know, I think, to be honest, that was the first time that we actually took a photo of the half pint, you know what I mean? And like we then started doing the photos of the half pint afterwards. So that's where that originates from, like, you know. So that was a great night when it lost in something. Dear, like,
mate, we're gonna definitely.
It generated from there. Wherever we go now, we have to have a photo with a half pint, don't we? Like, you know, so
with a pinky out.
And that jacket with the fluffy, such a man. So masculine.
God, I love it. Mike, I'll come over to you, man. Listen, it was a difficult game. It was one that we probably enjoyed watching once it was over, but during it, I think all of us had a few mini heart attacks. But I wanted to get your take on it. Obviously, Lee's given a bit of a rundown of the game itself. What did you make of it in terms of our performance, not just the result?
This was one of those weird games where, like, normally you can either say it's going to be hard to pick a man of the match because everybody just played so well, or the man of the match was Leno because no one else deserves it. In this game, you had your players who were on top of it, and you had your players who were just diabolical. And the latter almost overcame the former. I thought we had a nice bright start. You could tell Benfica were way more up for it than they were last week. This was a different Benfica team than what we played last week. I mean, the fact that we didn't beat them last week comes down to a shitty handball outcome and not much else, other than the fact that we couldn't put more offensively on. But this looked like a better Benfica team, so we had to raise our game. And for the most part, in the first half, I feel like we did, until an individual error. And it's that 45th minute window that we have always gotten in the trap of, not as much lately, but just over the last few years with this squad of not quite there players, where in the last 5 minutes of the first half, we just shut off. And it happened again. I mean, I have chosen not to go back and watch the Ceballos thing because I've heard there was no contact at all, but you stick your leg out there like that in that spot of the pitch, you're going to give it up. And with a guy who takes a free kick that pure, I was likening it yesterday to a video game or to golf or something like that. There's what you want to do with a free kick, and there's what you're able to do with the free kick. And very seldomly do the two things perfectly coincide where you pull off exactly what you're trying to do. No one could have stopped that. So no qualms with the free kick going in. The problem is with giving up the free kick, and that was it. If you had told me at that point that wasn't going to be Ceballos' biggest error, I would have shut off the game, but it wasn't. From that point on, I mean, just the possession was even. It was 50-50, and I don't think that was our plan. We were actually behind in possession for a while, and I mean that second goal. Lee, I'm not a footballer, as you may recall. I know I have to keep convincing you of that. I used to be, but when you're 40 yards from goal or 35 yards from goal, I mean, and that you're competing with a header against someone on rushing, coming on you. I mean, unless he thought he was all alone, do you head the ball back to your keeper in that situation when you're that far away from goal? Because that was what he meant to do.
I honestly don't know what he was thinking. Yeah, but I don't know what he was. Why would he ever think that was going to happen? It's just a little mental freeze in his game. I don't know whether he thought it was further back. He was under pressure.
Yeah, he either didn't think he was under pressure at all, or he thought he was much closer to the box than he was. But I mean, just the ridiculousness of that. I mean, if he had gone for I thought he just missed it and it kind of went off the back of his head. When I saw the replay, he was fully trying to head the ball back to Leno, right. And they capitalized on it. I mean, once again, their goals weren't coming from like excellent lead up play and excellent dominance of us on our defense. They were from individual mistakes, set pieces, last week a penalty, and we gave those up. Fortunately, we had enough in the tank, and we had a couple of leaders on this team who wear number 7 and number 3 to pull us out of this. And I don't think this is the last time we're going to see those two salvage a game for us that looked lost. Those guys, I mean, I've other than the two of you, I don't think that there's two men I love more than Saka and Tierney right now at this moment. They're slightly ahead of the two of you at this point.
100%, mate. Do you know what? Saka and Tierney, I've seen it too many times with these two kids now. 19 years old, 23 years old. I didn't think either of them had an astounding game. That was the biggest part of it for me. They just dragged the seniors.
You don't think Saka had an astounding game? I can believe you on Tierney, but you don't think Saka? What the fuck is going on? Sorry about that. You don't think Saka had a good game? yesterday overall?
I don't think Saka was outstanding. I certainly didn't think he was diabolical like the others. I don't think Tierney was particularly great either. But what they both did was drag us through this game. And Saka for 90 minutes yet again, he must be dead on his feet, knackered, played every single minute, and he puts that last minute assist in for Aubameyang and one of the best passes we've seen all season for the first goal as well. So for me, clear man of the match. But I didn't actually look at him and think, wow, this kid is like just absolutely outstanding. I thought nobody was outstanding in my opinion. I think 2 or 3 of them did their jobs, and Aubameyang was good to see him doing so well. I want to move on to some positives, Lee. I'll come back to you. I just want to get across a couple of things before we start talking about some of the positives moving forward, because like you, I mean, I'm going to bring it up because it's in the comments, but this really annoyed me. This comment here. When are we going to get to the hero of the hour, Willian? And it really annoyed me for the reasons that I've said before, because I've been saying that Martinelli is not rated by this manager, and nobody seems to agree with me. And they seem to think that he is just getting him back onto the pitch slowly. Now, I look at Saka, he's dead on his feet another 90 minutes. Tierney and Partey thrown straight back in whenever they're fit enough to be on the bench. What is it with Willian and Arteta is my first question. And why is it now that we're seeing that front four messed around with so many times in terms of Odegaard, Smith Rowe now on the left, it seems, ahead of Pepe, who I don't think's done anything wrong. Lacazette seems to be missing out now. What's going on, Lee?
I think that it's a good. First of all, let's get onto the Willian thing. The Willian thing, the thing that bugging people at this moment in time is that Willian, right, is getting game time week in, week out, and he's not deserving it. You know, that is the thing that's giving people the ump about it. Like, you know, like yesterday, and it's a great point you make. That as soon as Partey's fit, even if he's not fit, he's on the bench and comes on in the last 20 minutes. As you say, Tierney straight away back in the team. Martinelli gets injured. It's an excuse to keep him out. I hear these things of like, you know, people turn around and saying like, oh, he's leaving him out so that he can play Thursday. He didn't play a minute like on Thursday. And when it really mattered yesterday, we needed a goal. 5 minutes from the end, those 2 players did not come on. That tells you everything you need to know as a footballer. If you're a footballer, an attacking player, and you're on the bench, and you know that there's 5 minutes to go, you're 1-0 down, and 5 subs coming, and you don't come on. There's something not right. It's, you know the manager doesn't rate you. I'm sorry, he doesn't. You know what I mean? And then when he continues to bring on somebody like Willian, who's not doing the business, all of a sudden people are going to start getting the ump about it, and that's what I'm saying with it. But you have to say today, whether you like it or not, or you're a Mikel Arteta in, or you're Mkhitaryan out, or you're a 50-50. He actually got it spot on yesterday. There's no 2 ways about it. People were moaning before the game. Oh, if he's taking Partey out there, he's got to play him. Well, the reason he took Partey out there was because if it was going like that within the last 10, 15 minutes, he could come on and do what he'd done. And that was what that substitution for was. That's why he took him out there. Tick the box. Whether you think it's the right decision, I think it was the wrong decision, but it became the right decision, if you like, by bringing Willian, because he done. I'm not having all this rubbish. Well, it was an assist. It was a pass to Tierney, who had a lot of work to do after that. And he dropped his shoulder, cut inside, fantastic finish, or cut on the outside there. I am not, you know, what
you can't give the same weight. You can't give the same weight to that assist as Saka's assist. I mean, they both count as an assist, but like, exactly. There's a slight difference between the two.
Saka put in 2 assists yesterday. Sublime pass for Aubameyang, right, and a superb cross for him for that. He will get 2 assists on that day, and Willian will get 1. This assist thing is not right. You know what I mean? Like, now it's different. You know, to a goal, isn't it? If you score a tap in or you score a 30-yard goal, it's still a goal. You know what I mean? That's the argument that it is, but it's not. You know, it's not. You have to do so much more in it. I've seen players. You know, the fella scored a goal from 45 yards at Southend the other day. Someone tapped it to him. Like, you know, he gets the assist for it, for a 45-yard pile driver. So that's it there. You know what I mean? So
I want to make Lee really mad.
And when you go back to
I want to make you mad by telling you what Arteta said about that assist and about why he put Willian in. Or Dan, do you have that, or do you want me to read it?
Go on, go for it.
Okay. And I know I've been able to tell that Lee's on about a 2-second delay, so it's not when we both talk at the same time, it's because he hasn't heard me interrupt him rudely yet. But after the victory, Arteta was asked to justify the changes he made. He describes that there wasn't much space to run in behind. They were on 2 really tight lines. He says, you need people to unlock that with special qualities in tight spaces to create movement. And I think Willie was really helpful tonight. So that's 10 games in a row. He'll be starting now.
Yeah.
But then he says, on Willian's impact on the match, Willian specifically, I think he changed the game. He gave us much more composure in moments, produced some creativity, produced the goal for Kieran, and we need everyone on board. How angry does that make you?
Well, in a way, it was correct because that's what probably did happen. You know what I mean? Like you can't listen. I've been criticising the manager for the last for a little while now. But when he's made substitutions, we're 1-0 down. It just the game peters out. We haven't had that impact. Whatever way you look at it. Whatever substitutions he done, and by the way, I think Partey was more influential than Willian, if I'm going to be honest, because he got back control in midfield. That in my opinion. So, these journalists, I would have questioned him on that. You know what I mean, if I'll be honest. But what he's done, I'm going to look. This is how I see about Arteta. Like yesterday, I don't know if he knows that he's guaranteed his job, so it don't really matter. Like, they've said to him, whatever you do, don't matter. Like, but I'm telling you that now, if that would have finished and we'd have been out of that, fans would have gone the other way against him. I would have been one of them. That would have been, it doesn't matter what he done after that, no, because of what he done with that Willian thing. So it was a big, bold decision for him, you know what I mean? Like to go and do that. And I think at the end of the day, it was big, it was bold, it was very, very brave. You could easily say borderline stupidity, but he got it. So once he's got the result, I can understand him coming out and giving it, I'm a little bit this and a little bit that. Because I'm telling you that now, he's survived.
You knew 1 out of every 10 times he put in Willian late in the game over somebody else. I mean, eventually something would work out to where he'd be made to look correct. It's still just 1 out of 10 times, though. I think his bigger crime yesterday, and look, I know I feel very differently about Arteta and his status than the two of you, specifically Dan, I know. But I mean, the bigger thing you could look back on with hindsight, and unless you know the full medical, physiological details of why it's not really fair to contact this, but the Partey being on the bench for Ceballos instead of starting the game and playing as many minutes as he could, there's 2 different ways of looking at it, but those individual errors are the only reason we had any concerns over this tie. And you can't coach a player. I mean, it wasn't Arteta's fault that Ceballos headed the ball back or left his leg out. I mean, those aren't coaching decisions. So, to me, yesterday was one of those games where, Arteta could have ended up looking responsible based on the personnel decisions he made, not starting Partey if he was ready enough to be on the bench, putting in Willian instead of the other 2. It worked out for him because he got bailed out in that one. But, it isn't like if we had lost that game because Saka doesn't put that beautiful ball through to Aubameyang, is that Arteta's fault we lost the game yesterday, or is it Danny Ceballos' fault that we lost the game yesterday? I mean, you can't constantly look at the coach and say that he's the reason we're out of the Europa League, because when it's that blatant of an individual error, I mean, it just depends on if you're looking at it globally or.
There's such a delay with Lee's thing, isn't there?
I know, yeah. It's Mike, isn't it? It wasn't a delay with me and you, Dan. It's Mike. But anyway, when he done when Danny Ceballos done that, I actually turned around and said, "How can you blame Arteta for this? It's not his fault. It's just players' individual mistake. You can't blame him." But what I think would have put the fans in meltdown was that substitution of Willian in front of Pepe and Martinelli. If he didn't get it right, he got it right. I don't care what anybody says. When a manager makes changes and you win the game, You have to turn around and say whether you dislike him, whether you think he's the manager and is right for the job or not, he has got it right. And that's what he done yesterday. Whatever you think about it, his substitutions won us the game. They won us the game.
Just on that point, Lee, because I know we were talking earlier, me and you off air on a phone, and you made a great point, and I think it's worth bringing up. 1 week it's Danny Ceballos. The week before that is Cedric. The week before that is Bellerin. The week before that is Holding. Xhaka's got a mistake in him. How many of these individuals are going to make mistakes that cost our football team, mate?
Well, that is the problem. That is the problem with the manager at the time. If you're a coach or a manager and your centre half is continually makes mistakes, he puts an own goal in 1 week, he misses the header, does that, does this. Then it's a simple job. You say you're right, you drop him and bring in somebody else. The fact of the matter is, at this moment in time, Holding will have a good game, and it'll be Louise that makes the mistake. Then the following week, Holding makes the mistake, and Louise has a good game. Then you've got it from Bellerin or Tierney, and the whole of them. If I go through the team, Leno's got a mistake in him. Like most players have got mistakes in them, but these come through. You know what I mean? Leno's got mistakes in him, which he's done. Bellerin's got a mistake in him. Tierney, not so much. You know what I mean? I don't think you can really go, well, I find it very difficult to say Tierney's made a mistake, right? Yeah, but Holding, you can say yes. Louise, you can say yes. Ceballos, you can say yes now. Danny hasn't made that many mistakes, but 2 in 1 game for him, you know what I mean? That's criminal. And then you look at Xhaka's got a mistake in him. Then you go to the forwards. You know, Lacazette, like not a mistake in him, but like he's got a miss in him. Aubameyang's got a miss in him. Eddie's got a miss in him. There's too many of these players. And if you look back, and you look at Tierney. If you look back at teams that are winning things, Tony Adams. Yes, Tony Adams made mistakes. Of course he did. But you have to think long and hard about them. And you don't have to with a certain amount of players. And that is his problem. There's too many mistakes in these teams. And the inconsistencies of the player is there for what, and that's why Arsenal play well 1 week, not the next, because of the inconsistencies of the players.
Well, Lee,
100%.
Are we the finished product right now? Could anyone argue that? I mean, Tony Adams, amazing player, not mistake prone, but he was also surrounded by and leading a team that was the finished product for most of his career. We are not anywhere close to being that. And the fact that it's individual mistakes being made by different people is to me just smacks of a team that isn't the finished product yet. It doesn't mean that Aubameyang missing sitters like he did a week ago, means that he's not a good enough player to play for Arsenal. But it's just when we're the finished product, when we're a better team that is all playing the coach's system the way that the coach wants him to, and the players that he has the confidence in, and we have the 18 people that we want. When that's the situation, and I hope we get there, I'm not just assuming that we're eventually going to get there, then those individual mistakes are less severe. They're covered up. They're overcome by the opposite of mistakes on the offensive end, where we have enough goals that a mistake like that doesn't matter. We're playing so close to the edge constantly, and like someone in the chat said, the mistakes we make almost always lead to goals. It does feel like that. It's always going to feel like that. Maybe that's not the case because you tend to forget them when they don't end up costing us. But so many of the goals we've allowed are individual mistake driven, and I think that's the sign of a young team that's still trying to kind of put the parts together and figure out what goes where.
I think the novice stuff is coming out. The inexperience is starting to show, in my opinion, in terms of that, Mike. I think you're right there. There's too many individual errors in this team. But we're going to move it on because I want to talk about the draw very quickly. Mike, I'll come to you first. The draw, we've got Olympiacos yet again. Revenge, potentially, from last season. What did you make of the draw? Not just ours, but obviously Manchester United and AC Milan drew each other. Are you happy with it? Do you think that that's a good draw for Arsenal?
I am happy with it. I woke up early to watch it. It was on at 7:00 local time. I set the alarm. I woke up. I put it on my phone, and it always pisses me off when they spend 20 minutes having conversations with people. I'm like, get to the goddamn draw. Like the FA Cup 4th round draw was like, boom. They turned on the feed, they did the draw, and then they got off. That's what it needs to be.
And then EastEnders comes back on.
Yeah, well, not for me, but yeah.
No, not for you. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole the UEFA thing always bugs me, but I thought they did that for the Champions League, and they would just get down to business for the Europa. But that's not the question that you asked. I think it's a good draw. Olympiacos I don't think is super strong at this point. We tend to do well in their place, whether we're the home team or the away team at this point. And it's a place we're comfortable with. And the toughest thing about playing at Olympiacos is the fans. And unless something massive changes in the next 2 weeks, they won't be there. So, you're sucking the biggest advantage that you possibly could have out of Olympiacos. So did you know, Olympiacos has Jan Mavila. We're finally going to go up against Jan Mavila. I didn't realize he played. So between him and Socrates,
wow.
It's not an easy draw.
Every summer, mate. Every summer we were linked with Jan Mavila. Jesus.
Every summer. And Matthew Valbuena, that's who I'm most worried about, because that man, he might be older than Lee Judges and I combined, but he puts in a corner. Every time he puts in a corner, he might be the best in the world. I'm not even kidding. Like, Ozil sucked at it. Rosicki sucked at it. Cazorla sucked at it. So Saka sucks at it. I don't understand that. But Matthew Valbuena, we have to really, because defending corners has never been our strong point either. But that's the one thing that worries me. Other than that, the team isn't too scary to me, and I think it's a good draw. I was hoping to see Spurs and United drawn against each other, but I guess United and Milan will be. United and Milan will be there's no super match. United and Milan is the closest.
It's the only one. Yeah, I thought that as well. As soon as I saw the draw, I thought that's the only one, to be honest with you. And as for Balbuena, great player, but the reason he's good at corners is because he certainly won't be standing in the box trying to head him, because he's 4'11".
Yeah, you could literally be. You could be the dude that hangs out with troops now in New York and be good at corners. You don't have to. That guy could probably practice that and be good, but I forget what his name is. But
I don't know.
But the draw is good. I do want to mention one thing about the goal celebration. Someone asked about it in the chat, but
Odegaard.
I don't want to take us backwards, but is this a good time to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
I watched that goal over and over and over again because, of course, Jake and I were we were celebrating too much to even see what happened in the aftermath. But you look at the celebrations of the people around Aubameyang. Odegaard celebration. Have you seen that yet? Have you seen the meme of it? He looked like 1980 Bjorn Borg winning the Wimbledon. And I know Dan, you were something else at that point.
Yeah, I was a fetus. Yes.
But he drops to his knees, he falls down, he's like humping the ground. Like, he looked like his boyhood team and the one he'd been on for 15 years had just won the Champions League. I love that. Lacazette runs up and slams the ball into the goal. You know how players do, but like comes about 2 inches away from two Olympiacos players, including the goal. He almost decapitated them. Willian just turns around and starts walking. Like, he couldn't have been arsed to like get excited about that. And that, I'm not coming out and saying that I'm slating Willian over that, but I'm not going to come out and say that either. But the Odegaard celebration, you have to go back and watch. It was hilarious for a player who's been with us for like 4 hours.
A lot of people, to be honest, in the chat are saying that it was a joy to watch, and a player that's spoken very highly about Arsenal now that he's come on loan. So we'll see what happens there in the summer.
Sorry to take you backwards, but I wanted
you're
to
fine, mate.
Because it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I think it's important. Lee Judges, just quickly before we go into Leicester, because this is apparently an Arsenal-Leicester because of last night. We have talked so much about it, but I think it's necessary. Just before we do the draw, Judge, obviously we've got Tottenham in between that draw, and they have got Dynamo Zagreb. What do you make of that, mate?
Well, I thought it was Dynamo Kiev, and I was thinking, I've got to go to Ukraine. Generally I was saying, I was thinking he was going to Ukraine. The Ukraine, should I say? And I thought that would be a long time. But I got mixed up with Croatia and Ukraine even then. So unfortunately, Croatia isn't as far, but it's not one of the easiest places to travel. So they've got a little bit more travelling to do than us, And listen, we're used to going to Greece, and we've just been there and won. So I don't think it's such a bad. I don't think it's a bad draw. Yet at the end of it, you look at that. the reason we lost to Olympiacos was because to our own faults last season. So I think that if I'll be honest, I think that. I'm quite pleased with the draw. I think we've got a good chance. We've got a good chance. If we can't beat Olympiacos, we don't deserve to be in the Champions League or even win the Europa League. This is, I watched Manchester City last week destroy, a German team, which are a lot better than any of these teams in the Europa League. Come on, we should be beating these teams. The teams that we might struggle are the big hitters: Milan, Man United, Tottenham. I think
Roma,
if
Roma might be tough.
Do it right, we should be Roma. Yeah, obviously Roma, and maybe Villarreal. I think there could be a little, who's in charge of them. So, but hopefully we should get through this one. And if we don't get through this one, then you've got to be looking at the players again and the managers, because we should not be losing to a team like Olympiacos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over 2 legs.
Lost to them last year, and that's obviously why everyone's a little bit nervy when we got them again. But let's hope that it can be some revenge. One team that will not be in the next round is Leicester, and that's the team that we've got on Sunday. Lee, I'll stay with you. What does this mean, last night's result, for Arsenal on Sunday? Do we use this as an opportunity to rest some players? Is Arteta still thinking that we can somehow get top 4 if we win this game? What's your thoughts going into this one, Lee?
I think that... Listen, he turned around and said afterwards, didn't he? Or I read it this morning that Saka was, on his last legs for this game. So I can't see Saka playing in this one. I think that he'll change it up a little bit. But the good thing for us is that Leicester are playing as many games as us, and if they want to change it up, they've got the FA Cup to look forward to. So I don't think it was an absolute disaster them losing yesterday. They're chasing for the top 4, but I don't think their squad can probably go on all 3 fronts. So, as much as they'd like to have gone through on it, the priority, I think, is to get into the Champions League through the league. And still, they might even think that, if Manchester City have a big meltdown, they could still go on and win it. So I think they'd be disappointed. But I think that they're still a good side, Leicester, and I think that Leicester will make 1 or 2 changes. The trouble with Leicester is, and I think Maddison's been a top player for them, and he wasn't playing yesterday. So they come there, put their banks of 4 and 5, and you need that little bit of creativity to break them down. And they didn't have it. Let's face it, you ain't got to worry about that. Arsenal give you opportunities just because of the poor defending. But I think that Maddison's a big miss. I think that more of a miss than what probably they would think. So we've got a chance of getting something from the game. But ultimately, I think it's an opportunity to rest a few players, get some energy back into their legs. And I would expect to see Pepe. I'd probably expect to see Pepe, Lacazette and Martinelli starting in this game, giving a few of them a rest. I do. I think that's what will happen.
Fair play. And Mike, a lot of people in the chat saying Leicester have got a ton of injuries. James Maddison, a few other players that have got late tests. Obviously, Justin James has been out for the rest of the season. So this is perhaps an opportunity to play them at a good time. But I don't know what about you, but I do believe we'll see some rotation. I think it's needed after Thursday. I don't think we could look at players like Saka playing the whole full 90 again. I think there's Smith Rowe's played a lot of games. So I don't know what you take on this, but is this a good opportunity for 3 points, or do you just think this is going to be a same old Arsenal, excuse the pun, going into this weekend?
I think we have every reason to think we can get 3 points out of this game, especially if Maddison is hurt. I got a shout out to Brandon in the chat. He's on a bender right now. I think you'll see I think you'll start to see that we have 2 interchangeable sets of center backs. I think we talked about this yesterday. The league and the games that might be considered the less important of the 2 back-to-backs from Thursday to Sunday, you'll see Holding and Mari. I think we'll see them on Sunday, as opposed to the Luis Gabriel combination that we'll probably see more on the Thursdays. This would be a game for Pepe or Martinelli to start, just like was said in the chat by Maury Memento. I would not be surprised at all, though, to wake up and look at that lineup and see Willian starting, just based on his comments, and that's going to drive me nuts if we end up seeing the same old Willian. But But yeah, this would be a game that Saka needs some rest. It's not an easy game. It's not like you're rotating Saka because it's an easy opponent. But unless he's got some sort of bionic tendons and muscles and stuff that we don't know about, I am worried about him breaking down a little bit with all the minutes he's been getting lately. So, and we have the players who are just waiting to get on there, whether you put Lacazette in to start and Abba, out on left, or whether you keep Aubameyang up top and put Martinelli or Pepe out on left. I don't think you could really go wrong either way. And this would absolutely be the game I would rest in.
Oh, I totally agree. And like I said this earlier, that everybody said, where would we have been last season without Aubameyang? And my question is, where would we be this season without Bukayo Saka? Because I think we'd be out of all the cups and in the relegation zone. I'm not even kidding when I say that. This kid has been so crucial to our season. And we've had one of the poorest that we've had in the history of the club. So I look at the importance of this lad now, and I think I can see why he hasn't been rested, because we just can't afford to rest the guy. I think this is an opportunity to do that, though, because otherwise I do fear that he's just a couple of games away from burnout, and I really don't want to see that. I think it's an opportunity for Pepe and Martinelli to come into the mix. I think it's an opportunity to probably get Dani Ceballos to try and brush the cobwebs off and forget that absolute nightmare like he had last night. I expect to see some rotation, to be honest with you. But, Mike, I'll stick with you before I come back to Lee. What is it that we're looking for in the league now? Because everyone says top 4 still on. Everyone says top 6 still on. We're 11th currently, and we're looking behind us as opposed to in front of us at some points as well, because we've got the Leeds and the Wolves and the Southamptons and the Burnleys all with us. So what are we looking at, and what do you think Arteta's kind of aim is at the moment in terms of the league position, mate?
I don't know that he'll admit to this, but I would say that his mandate at this point is that he has to get back into Europe. And 6th ought to do that. I think in some years 7th might, from a qualifying standpoint, which would be a disaster, having to do what Tottenham had to do this season, even though they navigated through it okay. And I think it's entirely possible. I mean, I every time you think that the club is just finally turning the corner and we're going to go on a long run, we throw up one of these games like we did against Aston Villa. And it's just, I mean, I'm not going to hold Wolves against us, but the Villa one was a hangover from that we shouldn't have had. And, so fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3 times. I guess I'm going to keep getting fooled, because I think out of the last, what do we have, 13 games left in this season, I think we can get results, and I mean 3 points in 8 or 9 of them, and that ought to be enough to get us into the top 6. So, top 4 is not out of the question, but it's kind of becoming out of the question. Top 6 is sitting there for us. And, all we got to do is beat the teams that we're playing. And there's probably only 2 or 3 really, really I mean, I don't look at Liverpool as being unwinnable right now. I don't look at Spurs as being unwinnable right now. And, other than that, the Sunday game might be the hardest one of the lot.
You might be right. And Lee Judges, will come to you on that point, because we haven't just got Sunday. We've got Burnley away. We've got West Ham. We've got Spurs. We've got Liverpool. A tough run, in my opinion. If we do want top 6, let alone top 4, we need to win the majority of those games, do we not?
Oh, of course. And it's going to be tough, without a doubt. But listen, we've got, after Sunday, we've got a week off. So we ain't got no midweek games, so we can get the players nicely rested and go into those games, Burnley, West Ham. I don't think we've got a game in the midweek then, and then we've got the midweek game, Europa League, and then Spurs. So we can go into this game with a little bit of rest in the legs and things like that, which was what we needed. And we've got to go on. We've got to. I see people saying in the chat, get above Spurs. That's one thing that we need to try and do. But also, what we need to do is start getting on a run, so that we're used to winning games of football and creating runs in unbeaten runs. We're not doing that. We've not done it all that. If we're going to do anything in this league, the minimum requirement at some stage of the season is go 10 games without defeat. That's something you've got to do. You've got to go on a run of 10 games without defeat. We don't look like we like doing that. As Mike says, there's a banana skin after 2 or 3. So we need to do that. We need to get on a run, start winning some games of football, and get used to it. And we're going to have to go to Leicester, difficult game, and try and get something from that, and then Burnley away, not going to be easy. Anybody thinks that game's going to be easy? It's certainly not. And then, the big one against Spurs. So we've got some big games coming up. But what we've got to try and do is get above Spurs first and foremost. Try and get that. Try and claw the gap there. I don't think we're going to, because I think that we've got a difficult game. They'll have an easy game. We've got a difficult. I don't even know they've got. Can't be asked to bother. But I don't think they've got a team that they're probably like a winner. But I think they've got Burnley at home. So
they've got Burnley. They've got Burnley, Fulham, Palace, and then us. So
yeah. So they're going to stretch there. They're going to stretch there.
They ought to be. They ought to be worried about them Brightons and them Fulhams, right?
Well, I think I have to, but like we'll leave that to someone else to say about that. But
that's all I'm saying about that.
I think by the time we play Spurs, we'll probably be 7-8 points behind them. We've had opportunities to get above them this season. We haven't done it, and I don't think I can't see us getting anything other than 8th. I think probably the best we're going to get, because I can't see us getting on that consistent run that we need.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with you, Lee. I think top half is probably whereabouts we are. But it's all about the Europa League for me. And I said that I'm not so bothered by the league now. I think that's already been destroyed earlier part of the season. And it's all about trying to get past each opponent in the Europa League now for me, as far as I'm concerned. It starts with Leicester. Leicester are always a team that I've actually respected, not just because they won the league in 15-16, which was, some people say, a fantastic Premier League season that will go down in history. I've actually been really impressed with their recruitment and their off-the-field stuff as well, because they've actually replace players very, very well. If you look at N'Golo Kante being replaced with Ndidi, Harry Maguire went, they got Soyuncu in. They lost another centre-back, they got Fofana in. They're looking at players like Harvey Barnes when Mahrez left. They've managed to keep hold of Jamie Vardy. They've always had good fullbacks, in my opinion, and they've upgraded on the ones from 15-16 now. I think they've got about 4 fullbacks. I rate every single one of them, Pereira and Castagna, and obviously Justin James, who's been great. And they haven't really missed the Ben Chilwells and the Harry Maguires of this world. So they've always managed to be really good with their recruitment. I've always been quite jealous, if I'm honest with you, because that just can't be something that we say. Mike, you're trying to get in there. Go on.
Well, I want to eventually, and this might not be the night, but I want to have a conversation with you about that, because I have a theory about, like, when we always look back and, like, how do we let Leicester get Soyuncu, or how did we let them get the other players? And there is a difference to me between, and the reason that the teams, and I'm still considering Arsenal. I know we're not playing like it lately, but I'm still considering Arsenal in that top 4, top 6 type of situation. And the question is always going to be, do we take a risk on a guy? Like I wanted Soyuncu when we were rumored with him. I liked him. I had no reason to, other than what everyone was saying. But you take a risk on a guy like that, you end up probably overpaying. And can you slot him right in right away? Because you're expecting to not be giving players tryouts, Premier League run-ins in our squad unless they've already proven themselves for many years. So I actually look at those kinds of signings and say, would Arsenal, forget what Arsenal fans think, but would they be underwhelmed by them? Would they get a fair shot to play in? Or are we looking for someone established to come in, that we would have to pay more money for? And when they go to a Leicester, or they go to a Southampton, or Southampton's a great example of that, and play well, then everybody looks back and say, well, why didn't we sign them? But the reason that Leicester and Southampton and Red Bulls, Salzburg and those teams, and even Dortmund for a change, get that kind of reputation is because they have the openings to put those guys in and take a chance on them. And when they blow up, they can sell them for a lot of money. I don't think we've ever looked at ourselves that way. And if we started just trying to find these bargain signings, these 15, 20 million pound signings that are showing signs of being good, and sign them and put them in the lineup right away, instead of having them play in the U23s and having them sitting on the bench like Martinelli, we kind of waste them and they want to leave. So
yeah, it is worrying. I think
it's a different situation for Arsenal to bring in a player like that than it is for Leicester to bring in a player like that. And I think people forget that after that player blows up.
Yeah, and
Saliba's a good example of that. So Ali D is saying,
I was just going to bring up Saliba.
Saliba's a good example. So Saliba would have walked into Southampton or Leicester, probably played well because he was being valued. He didn't have to worry about his place. He had confidence, but he walks into a team like that, and gets his Premier League stripes and becomes known as a great player and helps his team, and then probably gets snapped up for 50, 60, 70 million by Man City, like John Stones and Kyle Walker and those kinds of guys. He comes to Arsenal, and is he going to be better than Luiz? Is he going to play better than Holding? Is he, all of a sudden he's our fifth or sixth best person, and he gets frozen out. And that, the same thing's starting to happen with Martinelli for whatever reason, and I worry about that. So, I just have, I guess, a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about how, and you weren't doing this necessarily, but I'm just saying how people wonder why we let that one get away and we wonder how now West Ham found Thomas Soucek, how Leicester found that, and why we aren't finding that. It's not just because, we're blind to talent. It's because when we bring in a player, we're bringing them in, hopefully, unless we're bringing them in as depth, we're bringing in the player to change our team right away. Thomas Partey, Kieran Tierney, that's the expectation for them. And so we can't really afford to take chances as often, unless they turn out like a Martinelli kind of talent. And then we forget that we've done that well. So
I think you're right. And I think it's a great point, Mike. And I think that we will look to the summer and see some of the players that you're in, again, are going to have some pressure on their shoulders when they come in. I mean, Pepe is a typical example of that, only last summer or summer before now, was it? So let's see what happens in the summer. League judges, will come to you before we wrap up with a prediction. Leicester have kind of taken over Arsenal, if you like, in the last couple of seasons, getting them into the position that I think we would normally be seen in. It's going to be a tough game, even with some injuries. What do you think the score is going to be, Lee?
Yeah, I think it'd be a tough game. First of all, Leicester were in a bit of disarray and they've recruited well with players, but also Brendan Rodgers has to take a lot of credit as well. He's been a good coach for them as well, done a good job. So I think they'll be up for it on Sunday. I predicted a 1-1 draw for this one. I think that we'll get a draw out of it, but listen, the worrying thing for me is you just don't know what Arsenal's going to turn up. It could be a good Arsenal, bad Arsenal, and indifferent Arsenal. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what sort of team he's going to choose. So I feel that the both teams will be a little bit jaded, and I think 1-1.
Okay, 1-1 from the judge. Mike, let's come to you last. What do you reckon the score is going to be, mate?
I'm going to go with what I always go with when I think we have a chance to win, but I don't really want to jinx it. And I'm going to go 2-2. I think it should be a pretty open game. Leicester is very very disciplined, but they don't have to just put 10 men behind the ball and play and park the bus. So I think we'll see a pretty open game. Vardy always scares the hell out of me. We have to contain him on the counter, and we probably won't. So that's where their 2 comes from. And I think it'll be a draw. I hope that we have an opportunity to win it. And by the way, the Brendan Rodgers thing, he is a great coach for a scrappy team. And forget Celtic because they're in a different kind of league altogether. But he's a great team for a scrappy team that everyone wants to overachieve and be better than the sum of their parts. He's the great motivator for that kind of a team. But as we saw at Liverpool, I know he had temporary success, but as we saw at Liverpool, I don't see him being a big club manager where the expectations on a person are so much higher. I think he would fail miserably at Arsenal. I get why people say that based on what he's done with Leicester and what he did, what was it with Swansea, and Celtic. But I think he would be a miserable hire at Arsenal, and I just don't like the guy. So
you're not alone on that point.
But he's perfect. He's perfect for Leicester. Perfect for Leicester.
You're not alone on that, Mike. There's a lot of people I know that don't like him because he always seems to fail at the last hurdle towards the end of the season. And we saw it last season; they were guaranteed Champions League football, pretty much, Leicester, and they just capitulated at the end. And that does.
He also had the whole Being Liverpool. I don't know if that played over there. That series. It's kind of like the Amazon documentary on them, but it was like 4 years ago when he was the manager. That guy was a total knob. I mean, he just his motivational skills were cheesy. He had a huge picture of himself on his wall at home. He would do the interviews kind of with the whole professor. I mean, he wanted to be Arsene Wenger, I guess, from an attitudinal standpoint, and act like he was reinventing the game, and he's not. So I mean, I think he can appeal to the nobody believes in us, and we're gonna show them type of camp. But leading he's like the opposite of a Pepe Guardiola or that kind of coach, I think, who can manage egos. And I mean, no one on Leicester has egos. You don't have to worry about that. But when they do, he's screwed.
There you go. You heard it here first. Brendan Rodgers is a knob.
He's a knob.
He's a knob.
He's a twat. He's a wanker.
Do you know what? I, unlike Mike, don't see many goals in this game, and I'm going to be positive and optimistic and go for a 1-0 to the Arsenal. I think that might be a crazy thing to say because of the amount of goals that we do seem to concede. We at least seem to concede one most games, but I just fancy us this weekend just because of the confidence boost from last night. I think that we'll go on there, play a couple of players that need to play and want to play, and I think we'll take 3 points, which is crazy for me, being optimistic, I know. We're going to wrap it up there, guys. Lee Judges, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Absolute pleasure to have you on the Team Talk show. And Mike, thank you for coming over.
Always a pleasure, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. I'm sorry, my name isn't Alan, and I'm sorry I'm not on a 2-hour delay like Lee, but it's always great to talk to you. I really enjoyed our pregame yesterday, and if you want to check, one person who's high on all kinds of drugs has subscribed to our channel as a result of this podcast. So if anyone else, whether you're high on drugs or not right now, wants to check us out, go to the Gooners Pod, go to gunnersubscribe.com, and it'll take you to our YouTube page. And we're getting ready to have a big March of shows. You'll see these guys and a bunch of other people on our channel for March because I'm uncaged. I have a light work week for the next 4 weeks. And I'm ready to pod. So
there we go.
Hopefully the Arsenal will actually give us some positive things to talk about.
Man, it would be nice, Mike, but it's always a pleasure to have you on. You're welcome on any time. There's over 300 people watching. Please go over to the Gooners Pod. Subscribe to Mike's channel. It's great banner, great laughs, and I promise you it will be a laugh when you go on there as well. It's great fun. Guys, absolute pleasure. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Nigel for moderating tonight. Thank you for getting involved in the Same Old Arsenal Team Talk. And until then, we will see you next time, which will be on Monday night. Apologies again for Alan Smith rescheduling, but he has promised he will come on a podcast with us at some stage soon. So hopefully we'll try and get Alan Smith and KC on together at some point. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Take care of yourselves and each other, as Greg would say. Up the Arsenal.